is an adoption of a resolution declaring Pike County as a Second Amendment sanctuary. And before we go on, I want to just address this issue. Some of you may not know me or may not know my background, and I had some friends of mine calling saying that we hear that you're not for this. Well, first of all, if you know me real well, and some of you who do know me well, like my buddy Nathan Sesko, who will be up here speaking, you probably don't know me real well. You probably don't know what my hobbies are. But let's just say that there's nothing further from the truth. I served 18 years, and for some of us, protecting the Second Amendment has not been something that just happened last week or 2 weeks ago. For 18 years, I served as your state senator, and when I left, I had an A-plus rating by the NRA. Now, some of you may not care much for the NRA. Some of you, I see hats and shirts on. I was proud of having an A-plus rating. Not every legislator has A-plus ratings. A-plus ratings are only given to those legislators or public officials that actually carry legislation, support legislation, and fight for the Second Amendment. And for as long as I can remember, I have been a gun guy. For those of you who know me, you know that's pretty much a fair statement. I got my first AR-15 when I was in 1985. My dad bought it for me. I don't know if Dad's here yet. But in 1985, I bought my first AR-15. It was a Colt AR-15 A2 Sporter II, and I still got it. And, you know, first of all, Michael Bloomberg and Beto O'Rourke doesn't speak for the people of Eastern Kentucky. They're not going to take our guns away. And those people don't have a clue. And that's the last thing we need is politicians like that telling us how we should live. And, you know, if I want to use an M4, an AR-15, or AK to defend my home and defend my family, that's my right. Nobody should be able to tell me nobody should be able to tell me what I should use or shouldn't be able to use to protect my family. Michael Bloomberg's fought, he's got a 24-hour security detail guarding his mansion. You know, people like me that live on Island Creek, I have to guard my own house. It's my responsibility as the head of my household and as a Christian to protect my family. And as we all know, our law enforcement community is stretched awful thin right now. If you call a police officer, it may be an hour before they get there. It's my responsibility to take care of my family. And let me tell you something. Some of the other members, Ronnie's had the flu. We can't go on there as a court and talk about that. Under Kentucky's open meeting law, we have to do it in open court. And that's why it's on the agenda. The first meeting of 2020, it's on the agenda. In this court, I think you're going to see, you're not going to have anybody stronger for the Second Amendment. And we've got the same resolution. It's got the same sanctuary language. And let me tell you why that's important. Right now, a lot of people are concerned about this red flag law. And I was talking to a gentleman here who's here from over in the Phelps area that was an Army Special Forces soldier. And we just sort of connected on Facebook a little bit. And we were talking about this. And here's my thing about this red flag law. If somebody is so mentally ill that you have to worry about their firearms, that shouldn't be the focus. It should be getting that person help, getting the medical treatment. Because if you take their guns away and they're that mentally ill that you need to take their firearms away, there's other things they could use to hurt themselves or somebody else. The guns are not the problem. We have a huge problem with crime. We got evil people in our society. And you do have people that are mentally ill that need help. But taking rights away from law-abiding citizens is not the right approach. The Second Amendment is very plain. And some of you may not know that Section 1 of the Kentucky Constitution, guarantees the same right as the Second Amendment at the federal level. So those rights are protected under both the federal and state constitution. And my personal belief is we need to elect politicians in both parties, whichever party you happen to support. If you're against guns, if you believe we should ban assault rifles or semi-automatics, or you should tell me that I can only have a 10-round magazine to defend my family with, I'm not going to support you. That's my right. It's your right. And nobody should be able to tell me that. So that's it. And right now, this red flag law, there's bipartisan support for that law up there. I don't think it's got a shot at passing. I'm going to turn it over here in just a minute. to our delegation. But there's 2 Republican state senators and 1 Democrat, and I think they mean well, but I think it's the wrong approach. And I think a lot of people have concerns about saying, well, somebody's taking an affidavit out, we're going to go take their firearms. Well, if they're that sick, I'm going to say this again, if they're ill enough or mentally ill enough to have their firearms taken, that's not the answer. They need to be evaluated by professionals. They need to be institutionalized until they get the help they deserve. So anyway, Philip,
Thank you for coming out tonight, and it's a good show of support for the Second Amendment. I want to tell you that I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I do have guns. I've got a lot of guns, and I don't want anybody taking my
are you going to
guns.
sell me those 2 AKs?
I don't know. I'll think about it, Judge. But I want to let you all know that I am supportive of the Second Amendment. I don't want anybody taking my guns, and I support you all wholeheartedly. Thank you all for coming out.
District 2, Commissioner Jason Tackett.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here and showing the support. I mean, at least we can all of us look together and we are standing up for something. I've had guns in my household ever since I've been big enough to remember. Got plenty of guns, like Ronnie said. If somebody comes in the house, they're going to have a bad day or bad night, something.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Bill, I will also say this is probably the most heavily armed administration that you've seen in a while in court. So just briefly, I just received another text, and I hope he's watching this, from Jeff Vanderbeck, who's the publisher of the Appalachian News Express. And Jeff couldn't be with us tonight because he's recovering from hip surgery. But if you know Jeff, the one thing you know is he's a gun guy. And when I mention the media being against guns, it's not your local media. It's been the national media. We've got some folks here and locally that share the same values that we have, and we want to wish Jeff Larry, along those lines, what they were talking about is making people either surrender their firearms in Virginia, semi-automatics and high-cap magazines, or having to register so they could, they sort of backed away from that. I'm not registering anything. If it's illegal now, I'm going to keep it and I ain't going to register it. And I'm not going to vote for anybody that wants me to register it either. Along those lines, my dad was supposed to be here. He's got my son at basketball practice. I don't know if he's made it back over here yet or not, but my dad's a Vietnam vet, was a Marine, combat veteran. I got people like Lonnie Tackett, who's in the back, Vietnam veteran. I mean, those people that meant a lot to me, they put their lives on the line so that my generation and generations that followed didn't have to have their rights questioned. But yet we see politicians, and I'll be just quite honest with you. I'm a Democrat, but I'm ashamed of some of the people running for president of the Democrat Party. I'm ashamed of it. If you look at this court, about half the staff's Republican. You've got 4 Democrats elected. We don't share the values of that National Democrat Party. We share the same values you all do. That's why we're all here, and that's why we put this on the agenda.
Pike Countyans.
We're Pike Counties. I'm going to tell you,
Pike
when we
County.
leave here tonight, we're all Pike Counties. I want to thank all of you for coming out before we act on this. And let me say, this has been, some people say, oh, it's going to get out of hand. No, it's not. This is what America's about, the right to peacefully assemble and lobby government. And, I want to thank all of you for coming out, because this is important. And this will send a message. You've got members of the press here. This is the biggest crowd I have ever seen in this courtroom in my entire life. And as long as I'm in politics, as long as these guys, we're going to have your back on this issue. And if I have to go to Frankfurt and lobby, if I have to go to Washington, I will. But,
Hey, Judge.
The Democrats in Washington are worried more about fringe issues and things instead of putting people back to work. And that's why they're losing elections. And, I can't support people. If you want to take my guns away, I'm not supporting you. And I think a lot of you all feel the same way. Now, we have some people signed up. We only have a few signed up. And if anybody else wants to talk, we usually have a 3-minute limit. If everybody talks.
Dealing with the school issue. If you can remember a couple of years ago, before we were able to get that grant, with Sheriff Scott. Mr. Atkins, myself, and the Pike County Board of Education worked closely to get that grant. We jumped through hoops to get it. But before that, we had a meeting talking about school safety, and that was a very important issue to the Pike County Board of Education. I'm sure it is to the board members that sit there today. But what most people don't realize, when a gunman targets a place where they're going to inflict harm, they do it in gun-free zones passed by politicians in Washington or state governments in Washington or across this nation. That's where they target. And they target those because they know they can make the most casualties. And what's the best way to prevent that? It's to arm yourself. That's why the Pike County Board of Education passed 5-0 to arm teachers within the school district. Now, thanks to Sheriff Scott and the grant that we got, we were able to put deputies in those schools instead of arming teachers. But make no mistake, I was proud of the vote I made to arm the teachers. I'd make that vote again today, and I'd make that vote again tomorrow if I was there, because that's the right thing to do for school safety and to defend yourself and your children. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
As Pike County Judge Executive, it will be my motion that the Pike County Fiscal Court pass the following resolution declaring Pike County, Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary, whereas the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of our nation, and whereas the Second Amendment to the Constitution states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed an individual's right to possess firearms unconnected with service in a militia for traditionally lawful purposes such as defense within the home, and whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed that the right of an individual to keep and bear arms is protected under the Second Amendment, is incorporated by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment against the states. And whereas the United States Supreme Court in United States v. Miller, 1939, stated that firearms are part of ordinary military equipment with use that could contribute to the common defense are protected by the Second Amendment. And whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court is concerned about the passage of any bill containing language which could be interpreted as infringing the rights of the citizens of Pike County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court wishes to express its deep commitment to the rights of all citizens of Pike County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court wishes to express opposition to any law that would unconstitutionally restrict the rights of the citizens of Pike County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court wishes to express its intent to stand as a sanctuary county for Second Amendment rights and to oppose within the limits of the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth of Kentucky any efforts to unconstitutionally restrict such rights. Therefore, be it resolved, the people of Pike County, through their duly elected Pike County Fiscal Court, hereby designates Pike County a Second Amendment sanctuary in order to preserve for the people of and in Pike County their rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Furthermore, the Pike County Fiscal Court hereby expresses its intent to uphold the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Pike County, and furthermore, that the Pike County Fiscal Court hereby declares its intent to oppose any infringement on the right of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. We, the people of Pike County, Kentucky, through this resolution, hereby declare our rights, our freedom, and our liberty as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Witness our hand this the 7th day of January 2020, and it is my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there a third or fourth?
Fifth. Motion. Second. Third.
Let the record reflect that the motion has been seconded by all three members of the fiscal court. And this is really not my motion so much as it is a motion of the entire court. We speak as a body. We have been, some people have criticized us for working together, not coming in here and putting on a dog and pony show like we used to have, and trying to move the county forward in a professional and orderly way. And I think this has been a team effort by the members of us to try to bring this to the first meeting this year. So it is now, is there any question or discussion on the motion or second? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. And the resolution is adopted.